welcome back to We Bought a Mic for Everything, Everywhere, All at Mic.
Yo.
We bought every mic everywhere, all at once.
All up, Mike.
Welcome. It's good to be here. It's good to be back. Talking about one of the best movies that has come out in a very long time. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, the new movie by A24. We've seen it. We're going to talk about it. Welcome. My name's Ernest.
My name is Hunter. Just went to a multiverse where he's good at podcasting.
Oh, picked up some skills.
Yeah, so see, and that is a visual gag just for the YouTube watchers.
Well, what did you do to? Did you bite your hand a
I
little?
bit my hand a little.
You got to be weirder than that.
Oh, you don't know how infrequently I bite my hand.
That's true.
It's got to be more random.
That's the wackiest shit Hunter's ever done.
I just like rubbed my hand all over Moo here and then just bit it. And now I might have an allergy attack like during this podcast. You got some Benadryl or what?
I might.
Okay.
And you are? Introduce yourself. Hello?
Drew. I'm Drew. Hey.
Yeah, Drew's from a multiverse in which he
in which I'm awkward sauce.
in which he fell asleep during the Northman.
Oh, baby, that's this universe.
More like the nap man. Am
Listen,
I right,
power
folks?
of the nap.
It was a
man.
10:55 p.m. showing. I had just had a big
Honestly,
old
you did that
dinner.
to yourself. That's a 2.5 hour Viking epic at 11 o'clock is.
That's the thing.
You did that to
You know,
yourself.
I'll admit it. I took a nap during The Irishman. I did.
And
and then it did make your top 10
you
movies of the
stand
year.
this
didn't
movie.
it?
It was so long.
You ride
that,
so
like,
hard.
The amount of time that I slept didn't have any impact over how much I loved it because I loved it all the same.
Wait a second. Where was it on your top 10 of the year in the year in which you put it on there? And how much were you asleep of this movie?
It was pretty much at the end. I
You just
fell
like
asleep for,
woke up and
5
you're like,
minutes.
God, it's crazy like how they really did paint those houses.
Wow, that once so young Robert De Niro is now old all of a sudden.
Did you take like a nap in honor of like 2022 Robert De Niro, who's just an old man and is just
And
taking
he's
naps
just
now?
sleepwalking through every movie he's in. I have a little life hack because that one's on Netflix along with a certain movie about a certain Mankiewicz. If you watch The Irishman on 0.25 times speed, you can take a nap and miss nothing at all.
I know it's the same concept. It's the same concept. Like you just see, it's the same thing as like how I go to the bathroom during movies. Like I can pick up on act structure. So I know always at the act break, I can go to the bathroom and all I'm going to miss is like a lull of like exposition.
It's tough though to time it in some movies. Like I will admit, the first time that I saw Licorice Pizza, I went to the bathroom during the Let It Roll. During that.
No.
Yeah. No, because it's like, right, he goes in there, he saves her and everything. I'm like, cool, we're going to have like a little reset of the story and then I'll be back in time for the next scene. And I missed that part.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I piss during
tough.
every movie. Like it's like a
little baby
Pavlovian thing. Like no, just whenever I'm in the movies, like I just activates my pisser. You know what I mean?
But do you find the right moment to do it?
I think that during Everything Everywhere, the thing is with that movie, it was fucking hard. I was sitting there like bladder exploding for like 20 minutes because there was not a slow
There
second.
really isn't.
I almost leaned over to Hunter like, when can I pee? I was about to ask you like, when can I fucking piss?
I was like,
man?
I mean, you're going to leave and just
Yeah.
miss
I was about
the
to be like,
coolest shit
Hunter,
you've ever
like
seen in
open your
life at
mouth.
any
I'm just gonna
point.
do it here.
during the Batman, I went to pee when they go check out like that body in the morgue, and there's a clue at the morgue that I missed. So when that clue pays off later, I was like,
you had no idea what's.
I'm trying to remember when because I think I did a good job actually with Everything Everywhere. Like it was during like an action sequence, but I could tell it wasn't the best one. But the thing is, in that movie, like I didn't want to miss any explanation of anything,
right?
Because
well, it's not even about explanation. You could miss like one of the craziest, funniest gags that last for like half a second.
I know. Crazy movie. Probably I would say the most universally beloved movie in terms of people I know since Parasite.
Yes. Very similar, like, embrace from the film community.
It got the letterboxed hug.
Yeah.
And for good reason. Beyond it being very much for the demo of people around our age. I would say you have to have a certain processing speed in order to watch this. Like, I wouldn't show this to my parents just because they don't rot their brains all day on the internet like we do. And this is very much like, this movie to me has a lot of commentary about the internet.
Yes.
I think the concept
kind of is a metaphor about the internet.
About overstimulation to everything.
Yeah, because we'll get into it, but writ large, I think that is why we have the trend of multiverse right now. I think that it's because internet culture has.
What do you mean trend? What other multiverse movies are there?
Rick and Morty, multiverse.
I can't think. There's.
Didn't
Well, is there a big
was it
multiverse?
Is it Aquaman? Did he have a
No,
multiverse
it was like-
one?
Oh,
where he
no, it's
swam
Mank.
with the dolphin. Mank.
Multiverse of Mankness.
Yeah,
That's what it is.
multiverse of Mankness.
We want credit. it's like a
Army
1 million,
of Manks.
a million
Just-
Manx.
God, that's my fucking wet dream. Is just just.
It's Mank
swimming
with a
pool full of
ponytail.
Manks.
Yeah. It's Gary Youngman.
Mank
No,
with
it's
hot
Larry
dog.
Youngman.
Mank with hot dog hands.
A Mank that got credit.
Dude, that's the universe that I want to live in, is where Mank gets credit and Mank says, I don't want his credit.
A Mank that doesn't want credit. Yeah.
A Mank played by John Krasinski. That's the worst Mank.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Get
the
that
darkest
Mank outta
timeline of
here.
Mank. That Mank doesn't deserve credit,
There's
okay?
a trio of Manks where one is Tobey Maguire, one's Andrew Garfield, and one's Tom Holland.
God damn.
And they were fighting over who's cutest.
Man.
We got
Oh,
to
that's
stop.
good.
we
It's
are
good
going
to be back.
I will say that just at some point, I will try to avoid stepping into the Doctor Strange episode that you just did. But I wasn't on that episode, so I can give my thoughts on it.
Hey, not gonna watch it.
We're going to dip my toes into where I thought Doctor Strange failed, and a lot of that kind of coming back to that we had this movie come out like 2 months earlier, and I don't think that this movie is not only the best use of multiverse that we've ever seen. It's this Into the Spider-Verse, and then like what's the big gap in the ocean?
The trench.
The trench, yeah. It's that gulf to anything else, especially anything that fucking Marvel will ever put out multiverse related.
Primer much? No, that's time travel.
But more than this being compared to other multiverse movies, this is like just truly like one of the best movies that I've seen in years. I think it is the best movie I've seen since Parasite. I did a lot of like searching to try to figure out, is this better than any movie that came out in 2020 or 2021? The only thing that's close to me at all is The Worst Person in the World. But that's more of a personal favorite more than I would say that that's like the best. If I'm just saying like objectively what I think is just the most well-constructed film, this movie is right there. Not only that, like this is just rising up the ranks as one of my favorite movies ever. I've seen this movie twice.
Yeah.
Really want to see it again while it's still in theaters.
Yeah, it definitely requires multiple viewings, even though you do get plenty out of it the first time. It's not like you're like, wait, what? Like you get it, but you're just like, oh, it's so dense. It's a lot of density.
It's a little overwhelming, I would say.
Yeah, it's very intentionally. It's overwhelming for almost the entire movie. Like you're really, like I said, you don't know when to piss in this movie.
I will say, not enough spice.
So that's that's your.
I gotta knock it down. There's no worm.
There
are some trippy visuals, though.
Yeah,
there are a few Manks.
I love this movie so much. We got to see this like 2 weeks early ish.
Yeah, something like that. And a giant IMAX screen.
Yeah,
the big full size one.
And I am so glad that we saw it in that setting because it it was a really good way to. What is this basketball?
For the listeners, this might age like milk if the Celtics are out of the playoffs by the time this episode comes out. But I am in the multiverse in which the Celtics do win this series and win the
Did you put money down on this game?
No, I don't. I feel like it's like bad juju to bet on the Celtics.
Okay.
Me and this guy though, last night,
Money?
Yeah,
hundreds.
we're living in that multiverse where we're
Hundreds,
just
baby.
banking
Plus
it.
the draft. Plus the NFL draft.
We are living in a multiverse in which I do have a crippling
Yeah,
gambling
in
addiction,
which, like,
unfortunately, and I'm
Hunter-
dragging all of my
Hunter has
closest
pulled
friends down with me.
into his dark multiverse. Mobley's dark multiverse.
This is me.
But-
This is how I win.
It was crazy though. Like right after we saw this movie, because there was first like some buzz from people who were located in like L.A., New York, where people were like, "Hey, this movie's special,"
Right.
and we are fans of the Daniels on this podcast.
Right,
We
so
stand Daniels.
We love Swiss Army Man.
Swiss Army Man, fucking masterpiece of a movie.
We did a most anticipated movies of the year pod, and I kind of mentioned this just as an aside of like, hey, the Daniels have a new movie coming out this year. All I know is that it's somehow related to the multiverse and it has googly eyes involved. That's kind of like the extent of what I knew about it. But yeah, Swiss Army Man, 2016, Paul Dano, Daniel Radcliffe. It's a movie about a farting corpse that saves a man's life.
It has, I think, the best hard out for audiences in the first 5 minutes of any movie ever made, where Paul Dano is, I mean, spoilers for the first 5 minutes of Swiss Army Man, but Paul Dano is sitting on an island where he has presumably been beached there for days, if not weeks, and he is ready to kill himself. He has tied a noose and he is like putting it up, and he sees a corpse wash up to the shore. He goes up there, tries to save it, realizes that he's dead, goes back to trying to kill himself, and then just sees this corpse farting and moving around. So he thinks, I'm going to get on top of this corpse and ride his farts to the mainland.
Yeah. And it just kind of plays out from there.
That's something that over 50% of audiences see that and immediately click off of that.
Yeah.
Like just hard no.
Yeah. Harry Potter with an erection that is a compass. No, thank you. But that is one of like my favorite movies of the last few years.
Well, and it's a great feature debut.
Yes.
These guys were mad young when they made it.
Right.
And it shows like a sort of like a willingness to be silly while having depth, and that's what this movie is about.
Right.
Yeah. Dan, I mean, that's kind of the lost thing about Swiss Army Man is it is the farting corpse movie, but I rewatched that right before seeing Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Too.
And
It's
made
a heavy
me
movie.
Cry. Like it just again,
Yeah.
like it's very,
Well, it's
very
about
emotionally
life.
affecting.
It's about like this
Yeah,
corpse.
it's about finding beauty in life and in existence and what is life.
Exactly.
And also for the people who like stayed in for the hard out in the beginning, and then they were like, okay, I sat through the whole movie. The end must piss so many people off too, because it's so bleak. Anyway, I knew they ruled from that, and then this is a long gap between projects.
Well, one of the
right?
Daniels did another movie because this project was taking so long to kind of come together because it's such a hard sell.
It's an insane project.
They originally came up with this idea back in 2016. So this movie is 6 years in the making. It, of course, got put on the shelf a lot because of COVID.
Well,
and
because
else.
they obviously want like indie studio like capabilities where they have creative freedom, but also they needed $50 million.
And they also needed the right cast and the right person specifically for the main role. So this is Michelle Yeoh's moment, like full force. She is incredible in this movie. She gets to do everything that she's good at, including fighting, dramatic acting, comedic acting, and just embodying this, kind of female powerhouse that has like this really vulnerable, tender side to her. And she can do that so well. And you can't really think of like another person that could really step in and do this role. I know that they wanted Jackie Chan to do it too. That would have changed the movie completely. The fact that it focuses on a mother, you also get the father in there. We'll talk about Ke Huy Quan.
Please.
But the fact that it focuses on the mother is kind of like part of the magic of the movie. I think the movie would change a lot if the Ke Huy Quan character was more of the central figure. It's special because of that, and we'll get into more details as to why. But the thing I was going to say earlier is that we love Swiss Army Man. We're looking forward to this movie. We get a chance to see it early because the buzz is kind of building. And I remember we walked out of the theater and we were both like, that is like instant 5-star movie. Like,
Yeah.
it's so rare that you see a movie and you're like, I don't need the second viewing to confirm it. I know for a fact like this is special.
It's
and
it's an undeniable movie.
Yeah.
For people who like it, which is most people.
but you still have to be the type of person that we are that watches a lot of stuff. That's the thing, is like, if you're not the type of person that is like really invested in like movies and television, you might have a hard time like really giving yourself over to this movie.
Yeah, well,
you might budge against the fact that it's like so quick and so fast.
But I mean, I think it's kind of like what we said before, though, that this movie is kind of like, I mean, they're a little bit older. Both of the Daniels are, but like, this is really like the first big Gen Z movie. Like, this movie is raised by the internet. And if you listen to interviews by the two of them, it's funny because they say like, neither of us really watch a lot of movies. We mostly just watch a lot of anime and
That's fascinating.
we just watch a lot of anime and play video games. And that kind of sensibility is what makes this movie special, is because it's not like they're like, we really wanted to channel Coppola for these scenes where we're in Hong Kong back streets. Like, no, they're trying to like make this feel almost like cutscene like in some of these flashes away that we're getting here.
It's
and it's so
montage-y.
snappy. Yeah, this whole movie is basically a montage,
Yeah.
which
Same with
is
Swiss
going to
Army Man,
turn-
too.
Yeah, and that is going to turn a lot of people off. We should also mention, just talking about Daniels here, that's before they even made Swiss Army Man, they created music videos.
Yeah.
And
Turn Down for
specifically,
What?
they made the Turn Down for What music video, a like kind of crazy iconic music video. And they really struggled. They had to do like pro bono music videos almost, because they kept pitching their ideas to artists and they're like, that's too crazy. Can you just like shoot me like driving in a car? And they're like, absolutely not. We can't do that.
Yeah, that's part of what makes this special, is that they got the money to do something so fucking weird that most people would get laughed at for pitching.
Well, and especially for expecting $50 million for a pitch. This pitch is not for a $50 million movie.
Yeah.
Like, this is not a movie that you should expect to make that based off the pitch.
Right.
And yet it's gonna. And then some. Like, it's already, like, last I checked, it was past 35.
I think it crossed 40.
It's only gaining notoriety.
Yeah, it's getting to 50. No, the reported budget is actually 25 million.
Wait, what? I thought it was 50.
25.
Okay, well, can you fucking like dub me or something? I sound like a moron.
But that's the thing, is that it feels like that. That's part of why I think that a lot of people in the filmmaking community are head over heels for this movie, because it's the kind of movie that if you've been a filmmaker or involved in filmmaking to some extent, you dream of making a movie like this. A movie that has that scrappy, indie, almost student film type of feel to it, but it's actually incredible. It
has a budget. You weren't making this for $5 million and
Yeah, but
trying to
I'm
like
talking
do
about
all
like the
trickery.
the spirit of it.
That's exactly what I would say. Is it's like a platonic ideal of what a young person thinks that they're going to make when they grow up, because you can't just do this. Like, this isn't a movie that you should be able to pull off, because it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
And it also, like, it's expecting way too much to imagine that you can pull this off. This is why, like you said, I was thinking that too. Like, this is what like a genius college student would be like, someday this is going to be, but then they never do, because like it's too hard.
Yeah. Or it's full of compromises.
Well, yeah, exactly. Because this movie displays unlimited creativity, like all the time.
Yeah.
At the same time, really, really great technical craft. Like, just because they're not going for like classic filmmaking doesn't mean that every shot isn't painstaking.
Yeah.
Like, these shots are gorgeous. It's a beautiful movie. The effects are insane for $25 million.
On the cheap. It's all on the cheap.
The effects are so fucking nice. They get incredible performances, which can partially be attributed to directing. And on top of all of that, the biggest ingredient is that this is a movie that is like about it's about life. It's about why we exist. What do we exist
specifically
for?
in this moment in our history where everything feels like it's falling apart.
And that's like the final thing is that is an annoying concept to think that you can do.
Yeah.
Especially in the middle of everything else going on in this movie. It's almost fucking cocky to me.
Yeah.
To think like, I'm going to do all of this. I'm going to do everything everywhere all at once.
And that's what the movie's going to be called. And it's gonna actually
like,
live up to that.
It's just insanity to think that you're going to be able to get that message across. And even though they do it through a lot of like pretty explicit exposition, like just like saying that a good amount, that's because at the same time as that exposition, you're getting insane visuals that are like sometimes not even entirely related to what people are talking about. So it's not as though like they're explaining it because they're being lazy on the visual end or whatever. They're explaining it because there's so much already going on that they really need some sort of device to help them telegraph a theme across. This movie to me is, I think it's really more than even being like great or impressive. I think it's one of the most like remarkable achievements I've ever seen someone pull off, because this movie should be way more cringe. It shouldn't be funny. I mean, plenty of people like the humor rubs them the wrong way. That's fair. It's humor. Like that's going to happen. Every joke wasn't perfect in this movie. I'm able to gloss over any issue that I could have had with this movie because of the sheer fucking audacity of these guys. The idea that they thought they could pull this off and they did this well.
Right.
Like that's 5 stars to me, because it is impossible to make a movie like this.
And
it's not fair to expect like more. You can't do more.
Some people might have the argument that like the tones clash too much. Like I've heard that argument, and I could see that. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I think that might be a valid critique on the movie, that like it doesn't sometimes like transition super well from the drama to the insane wackiness. But going back to the internet comparison, that's kind of the point a little bit, isn't it? That like if this movie is a metaphor of sorts of what it's like to exist on the internet, that is exactly what it is. The tones never mix on the internet. You're going from wacky to heartfelt to dramatic.
You're going from a video of a puppy
despair
to a TikTok of a guy dying.
Yeah.
Right.
Like it doesn't feel good.
I was going to say, so I highly, highly recommend for listeners to check out a podcast that Daniels did on the DGA podcast. Have you guys listened to that?
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's an incredible episode. They talk a lot about like actually how they made it. And more than anything, like, my biggest takeaway, especially after seeing this movie a second time, is this movie it might be like the greatest achievement in editing ever, like that I've ever seen in my life. Like this movie, if this doesn't get any nomination, if it gets a nomination for anything at the Oscars, I think it would be for the editing of this movie, because the editing is insane that this movie makes sense. And there's so many really smart choices. I know we're like, avoiding anything plot related at all, and this isn't kind of a spoiler based on what it is in the story, but I mean, this is about an Asian American family, and one half of Daniels, Dan Kwan, kind of like talks a lot about relating this story to his life as growing up as an Asian American immigrant. And very early on, 5 to 7 minutes in the movie, you see Michelle Yeoh's character call
Evelyn.
Stephanie Sue, which, oh man, we're going to talk about Joy in a little bit. But Evelyn calls Joy, like says like, you're getting fat. And talks about like, especially in the Asian American community, like that's like almost like a symbol of affection of like, I love you. You're getting fat. I'm worried about you and your health.
I mean it affectionately when I say it to you.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I said it to you. I'm just like, Drew, you're getting bigger. talking about your penis. So, but like,
I'm
it's like
trying
that.
I'm trying to lose dick weight so hard. It's impossible around you.
But they talked about like how it's just like little subtle choices that they thought of afterwards. Like after you see that line get delivered, there's just a little shot, like a 3-second shot of just Joy sitting in the car with just like starting to get like, just, you can see the weight of what her mom said to her just like hit her. And it's just like these little through lines of emotion that are like these seeds that are planted in the first act of this movie that don't necessarily sprout up until the second, the third act, because you're so overwhelmed at a certain point at what everything is happening. That's why like it doesn't ever really feel like tonal clash to me. Like, just because, do you want this movie to either A, go full wacky zany and not have any heart to it, or do you want this movie to be like a fucking Christopher Nolan movie and have like no levity whatsoever to it?
That's the miracle of the movie, is that it genuinely has a story that cuts deep, and it's a movie about the multiverse, about this infinity of possibilities.
It's very
finds a way.
Matrixy.
Yeah,
But, and this is just for my money, I think it's way better than The Matrix.
it owes a lot to it. It's it's on the shoulders of giants.
Yeah,
basically.
and The Matrix is on the shoulders of Plato. But you know what I mean? Like, it's just, it's about harnessing this unseen power that you can have if you tap into like the simulation.
Yeah.
And realize that like everything is, pointless and fake. Like there's a ton of overlap there. It's just, it's generationally, like the Wachowskis were kind of tapping into like early internet feels of just like, whoa, like this could really be something, this computer thing. And this is tapping into like, this computer thing is killing everyone. This is way too much. We need to slow down. I'm dying.
Also, I mean, the difference is too is that this is, I don't want to get into it too much before we get into spoilers, but like this movie is like weirdly almost soft sci-fi. I don't know if you guys felt that way, where it's like both the most insane, deep multiverse sci-fi things in the world, but also because at the end of the day, it's only $25 million. Like it kind of has to be grounded with the sets that we're in.
Yeah.
We are inside of an IRS building. We are not in pods on like an alien planet being like transported around or anything.
It's the
like
IRS office and the laundromat.
Yeah,
like
and then like some exteriors in like China.
Yeah.
Like maybe some interiors.
I will say this is the most expensive movie that A24 has ever made.
Yeah,
A24
$50 million, guys.
But I mean, that's kind of is a credit to A24 and their business model. That $25 million. This is like one of the most successful companies, if not the most successful, when you consider both critical and commercially, of any movie studio in the last 10 years.
Yeah, they're doing
25 mil is their
they're
first
making
time.
a good go of it.
Maybe I will buy that A24 T-shirt. It just says A24.
I'm gonna get that quarter
I'm just
zip.
a big fan of production companies.
And the
You guys
hat.
know me.
Get the
I'm gonna
hat
join the
too while you're at
A24
it.
membership.
It's just like if I don't want to. We already talked about the A24 merch last episode.
Yeah, we did. So, okay. So I want to get to spoilers. So, please seek this movie out.
Yeah.
It is still in theaters. It's still hanging in. It's crazy that like, a movie like the fucking Fantastic Beasts movie, which is like the
Incredible.
the 10th or 11th movie in a major franchise, is now showing at less screens than this movie, and it's been out for a shorter amount of time.
Turns out that everybody already kind of knew Dumbledore's secrets.
Right. Yeah.
Like, he should have been so far.
He's gay and also he's a turf.
Yeah, he wants to deep throat Mads Mikkelsen. Like, who wouldn't?
So,
so yeah, it was supposed to be the summer of Morbius. We all know this, and turns out it's the summer of hot dog fingers. So go check out this movie. It's actually, I think by the time this episode comes out, you will be able to get this on video on demand. I'm not sure what price point they're going to be putting at. It might be the
1920.
Yeah, it might be the $19.99 that everything else has been going for. But it is well worth it.
it's gonna be overwhelming, but in a good way. More than anything, all I really want to say is, for any nit that you could pick about this movie, it is full. It has so much heart and so much imagination. Just in every second of it, like there's so much love into the fiber of the movie, and on top of that, it's also just really good. So, like, I'm not really even interested in critiquing it very much. Like, this is a movie I want to like be happy about.
Yes,
you know what I mean.
It's a movie about it's a movie about so many things, but to me, the way I've been pitching it to people is it's a movie about like if everything is bad and nothing matters, then we get to choose what matters. That's kind of like the point the movie is trying to make.
Yeah, that's the core message of this movie. Is this movie is hitting you. I don't know. Do you want to take this and transition into spoilers or?
Yeah.
This movie is anti-nihilism in a world that we're constantly kind of being bombarded with that choice of just like you just keep scrolling on Twitter and doomsdayifying everything around you, and
you have to.
It's about finding the beauty in everything.
Exactly.
Around you.
And as a movie watching experience, it can be a little overwhelming. So just be wary of that. It throws a lot at you. There are sequences where you see flashes of so many different things in fractions of a second, just stacked together. Like it is doing a lot. So go into it like knowing that there might be things that you're not going to be able to fully hold on to and grasp in the moment. You just have to give yourself over to it.
Just let it wash over you.
Yeah, it's one of those movies that like you can't fight it. You can't be struggling to catch every little thing because it's going to be a lot. And it's also doing really, really crazy stuff. I don't want to say exactly what you're going to see, but just know that like it's shit that you may be disgusted. It's not offensive. Maybe a little offensive
towards who? It wasn't offensive towards
DMV workers or IRS employees.
Yeah.
It can be shocking from the people who gave you the farting corpse movie.
Where he almost fucks the corpse during that movie. Like they get really close.
They do almost make
just,
out.
It does absolutely insane shit.
It's just guys that just like have ideas.
Yeah,
these just feel like guys with a billion ideas.
Yeah,
you know.
But despite all that, despite the things that you may think you might be scratching your head at, like why did this need to be in this movie? It needed to be in the movie because at the end of the day, it is an embrace of absurdism because that's how these guys see the world and that's how they cope with the insanity of the world is by making absurdist movies.
I was going to say between this and the After Party, are we having like a revival of like high concept comedies?
Sure.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Like
that's two.
That's two more than we've had in recent memory that are like this successful and people are liking them. And this movie is like one of the funniest movies I've seen in years. Like don't let that get lost in all of this. That this movie's
it's
hilarious.
funny and know that despite all the wacky craziness that it's throwing at you, it still has a heart. And in all the madness and the insanity, there the mankness, there is still, it finds a path, it finds a story through it about a family, about this family and their journey, and that's what makes it special.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna start with the most inconsequential spoilers that the first things I said to Hunter when we left is I really genuinely appreciated that no one ruined two things for me. The first was Detective Crashmore being in the beginning of this movie.
Dude, not even, they're like extended cameos, but Detective Crashmore, Jenny Slate, incredible.
And then the second thing is of course Raccacoonie.
Dude, yes.
I was like, Drew, I need you to watch this movie already just so I can reference Raccacoonie around you.
Yeah.
I feel the same way now with Gaia. I'm like, please watch this movie just so I can talk about Raccacoonie.
The third one, and maybe most important, was the song Absolutely by the band 9 Days being heavily featured in this movie. A song I used to listen to. I used to listen to that song a lot.
Yeah,
maybe very happy.
This movie's definitely sort of a cosmic gumbo. it and Santa.
Do not bring up his name.
He got paid $2 million for this movie.
That's his quote. His quote is his rate.
Even if he did a bad job.
He didn't though.
But he still got $2 million.
He did do a good job. I was
can make another $2 million.
I was like grabbing Hunter in the theater. I was like, oh, Hunter. I was so happy.
Dude, when him and Ke Huy Quan are dancing with each other in the laundromat.
Oh, it was so sick.
It just fills me with joy.
So, yeah. And then the other key thing that I just didn't know that turned out to be like mega important in this movie is Jamie Lee fucking Curtis.
Yes.
Who is
kind of unrecognizable a little bit.
Very much so.
You have to squint.
She's altering her voice a good amount too.
Yeah. And her body.
And honey, she's having a blast.
Yeah.
Okay.
And she's out there like repping this movie. Like if you follow her socials, she is like, she started beef.
She's like Sam Raimi. She's like, fuck you, Dr.
She's trying to be like, Marvel is not art. It's like, again, highly recommend the DGA pod where they talk about it, where Daniels, both of them, they first met as summer camp counselors. And they said whenever they were making this movie, they treated it like summer camp. They would have like little like summer camp like activities every day before. Like they were like, today Jamie Lee Curtis is going to organize a nice meditation session for everybody. And
that's
like
epic.
Stuff like that. And that's why this movie just seems like it feels special because everyone involved is just like all part of this like camp together.
Well, it comes through. It comes through the screen.
Yeah.
Like I was just talking about this with my fiance.
Oh, the first podcast. You got to drop that one. Congratulations, buddy.
Thank you. Cheers. We were actually talking about like if we wanted to do engagement photos, and I was looking at some other people's engagement photos, and they were so bad because, like, first of all, they were taken on an iPhone. Don't take your fucking engagement photos on an iPhone, people. Get a professional photographer. And I was articulating the point that, like, because I'm a photographer and I have an eye for these things, I don't know if most people have this, and if it's just me with my kind of photographer brain, but when I see a photo, sometimes I can tell if the photographer didn't do a good job at like creating a good environment.
It's a for
the shoot.
Were they having fun?
And it comes through, especially engagement photos that are it's like personal, intimate type of moment.
Are you like adding my wedding photos right now? Just like you think that Harry did a bad job?
Did you guys do engagement photos?
No, we didn't do. Photos.
I mean, your photos were beautiful. I never got the full album, so I don't know if there were any.
I stopped scrolling once I wasn't in them anymore.
You saw it was you, and then you're like, it's just these two some more? Get out of here.
But the idea is that, like, you have to do the work. It's not just about pointing a camera in the right place.
You have to get them in a headspace.
You have to create a good environment. And, like, obviously photography and filmmaking are completely different, but there is that similarity.
But directing is so much about that is you are directing them. You need to be providing the space where they feel that they can be at their most creative and they can be the most in the zone of this particular character that they're inhabiting.
Because it makes a difference.
What's special about this movie is they aren't just inhabiting one character. They're inhabiting like 100 different characters inside of this one performance.
Yeah, exactly. And it's cool because it shows that it's not just important to do that if you're like Lord and Miller and you're asking people to really improvise, because this script is pretty tight.
I don't think there's a single moment of improv possible.
And yet it still shines through. Mm-hmm. Like it's still like the energy still shows, even though you're not like setting like a sandbox up for them to do whatever in. You still need, like, I agree fully. Like watching this movie, I was like, oh, the vibes are impeccable on the fucking set. Like these guys are cool as shit.
The Daniels did talk about how there was a level of improvisation with some of the production where they had such limited time and such limited budget and access to, their shoot schedule and everything, that they would go to a location and get a bunch of shots of different things without knowing exactly how it was going to play into the final film. they just knew, they just had the foresight to be like, okay, let's get you like grabbing this or like moving in this way, because we know that we can play around with that. We can have options. We can do some kind of crazy transition. Because there are moments in this movie where like you're cutting between different realities back and forth, and you're delivering this feeling through these different versions of the characters, and you never feel the seams. It's fucking crazy how you can go from all of these different established versions of our characters and have it feel coherent and have it feel like it's one single thought that's being delivered.
That's what I mean about the editing, man. It's insane that this movie is cohesive in any way, shape, or form.
And it's also it's purposeful, whereas I don't know, because you like aesthetically you would compare this editing style to probably someone like Edgar Wright, another younger filmmaker who makes sort of like platonic ideal student films,
right? Quick, snappy, match cuts.
It's just in this movie, like this isn't because this is their style. Like it's just because this movie called for it.
Yeah.
And I think that that's really cool. Like these are adaptable guys.
Another thing, because we've talked about the humor, talked about the heart, which we'll get more into both of those aspects, but there's also just some fucking kick-ass kung fu style fighting sequences in this movie.
Very creative fighting.
So there's a few that I wanted to specifically call out, but the first one, which can kind of like the first act of this movie, we see Ke Huy Quan, who plays Waymond, who is just like more and more, especially after seeing this movie a second time, I just think like what he's doing here is special.
He's
for
a
people
star.
who don't know Ke Huy Quan, he was in Goonies, Temple of Doom. He plays like the kid who everybody hated in Temple of Doom, and he's kind of just one of those stories of a child actor, especially a child actor of color, who wasn't just the cute little Asian boy anymore and couldn't get acting roles as an adult. And kind of got cast aside by Hollywood.
He was offered roles, but they were all roles that were being offered to all the other Asian men.
Yeah, it was
in
just
Hollywood.
like, we need Asian man to play Asian stereotype, and this role kind of just like fell in his lap, and he was like campaigning for this role. He's like, please, I need this, and this is like a career changing role.
He's
man, like
phenomenal.
I don't like, after seeing this movie, I don't know how, if you are a casting director, why you don't call this guy up and be like, yo, you just showed me like 8 different layers that I didn't know that you had.
He also has a really, really cute little voice.
He does have a beautiful little voice.
He should do voice work.
Just be kind. I love it.
He just seems so nice.
His modulation is expert. Like he goes from this kind of flimsy kind of like husband type that's just kind of there in the corner to this like hero, this action epic hero, and then this suave like
that dude
James Bond
that is
guy.
That's Sigma grind set.
Yeah, he goes from beta to Sigma.
Yeah, he's
like
literally like, I'm a lone wolf, I don't need you anymore. Sorry.
Yeah,
it is like the first time that we see like real action in this movie is the fanny pack fight sequence, which
incredible.
That was kind of the first moment watching this movie where I was like, oh, what are we getting into here? Like, I'm all in on whatever.
The camera movement's all perfect. You're getting these nice,
so well choreographed.
shots.
Like, I don't know if you guys have watched a lot of like, not even necessarily like kung fu movies, because that comes across in like Quentin Tarantino movies, but like just any kind of like very like old 80s, especially foreign fighting films and everything. But like, they nailed that style down so much.
Visceral, tactile.
It's all those things. It's directed where you can definitely tell where it's paying homage to like certain kung fu filmmakers, but also, guess what? Jackie Chan never got in a fight where he kicks somebody's ass with a fanny pack before. Like, it's still wholly original with like what is happening, like the device that is being used here and how it is being used.
Yeah,
just rules.
So going back to Michelle Yeoh for a second, because we start and end with her. Beer break? Beer break?
Hit me
Slip me one. I really felt this character from the jump, because the way this movie starts, you are put in her shoes immediately.
Yeah, and she is stressed out, so you are immediately stressed the fuck out watching this.
She is juggling so many things. Her husband, her daughter, her daughter's girlfriend, her dad, her business, the customers at the business, the taxes that she has to report to the IRS. Like, you feel it. And when the title Everything Part 1 comes up and the sound design behind that just kind of rolls through the theater, perfect. Because it's he kind of just asks her, like, hey, what are you thinking about? Everything.
Yeah.
And I really connected to this character because I just thought about my mom, who's an immigrant mother and who was always worrying about everything everywhere all the time. And this idea of like an immigrant mother that has to spend so much time worrying about everyone except herself and putting everything except herself first, because she has to make sure that everybody has everything that they need, and that everything's taken care of.
Guess what, buddy? There is a universe where your mom is fucking Jamie Lee Curtis with her hot dog fingers.
Yep. And they're in
I
love.
think that's nice.
And they can play the piano with their feet.
It's so good. You get good with your feet.
You get good.
So I really like it. The way the character is drawn, it just really resonated with me really well. And, you know, kind of skipping to the end of the movie, there's this lingering thread of like, hey, did any of this actually happen? Or did Evelyn just kind of imagine it?
Did she have an aneurysm?
Yeah. Did she just have like this freak out moment, this like panic attack essentially? And it's a good place to end the movie because everything that we see her character go through, she goes through this incredible journey. And at the end of the day, maybe she doesn't fundamentally change that much as a person. She just learns to live in the moment little bit more.
She just chills a little bit.
Yeah. And I think that that's a really good place to see the arc, because it's like you can't expect people in real life to have these like incredibly dramatic metamorphoses and fully changes people. But you can expect them to like tweak a couple things and like, you know, think about it a little, some things a little bit different.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a really good way to like conceive the arc, because one of my nitpicks with the movie is that Becky, the girlfriend of Joy, she still catches a stray at the end. Evelyn tells her that she needs to grow her hair out instead of like leading with kindness. But in her way, that is kindness. That's how she's inviting her into the family, by like snapping at her and trying to like, you need to grow your hair out. And to me, the way that read in the moment is like, she didn't like learn her lesson all the way. But as people, like, that's not realistic. Like in the world, in the way our lives actually work, like we don't actually change that much.
Yeah, the change in any good movie is usually incremental.
Right.
I'm reminded of like Die Hard, for example. All of that plot is couched in between him not being sure about marrying his wife versus wanting to marry his wife.
Yeah.
Everything that happens in between is what changes him that much. Yeah. That's all that changes in him.
Yeah.
That's what good movies are.
I mean, it is like I said, like I know it's a big thing in especially like Asian American households, but even like this is the thing with my grandma that she does. Like my grandma has called like every other woman in my family like fat, or like kind of alluded to something about like eating and weight and stuff like that. And it is almost like for her is a sign of affection.
Yeah,
and
it's a
love
twisted
and caring.
affection. Yeah.
And it's like, Jesus Christ, you're going to like say these like awful things to me, and just like no awareness, no filter whatsoever about like anything that she's saying. So like it is kind of like it is her version of kindness, which I mean that kind of goes back to the Waymond character about
Waymond's an angel.
This whole
all-time
idea
angel.
of, I mean, especially how he's first introduced, where like I'm going to bludgeon people by putting rocks inside of a fanny pack to kill him with kindness, essentially, but in like the least corny ass way possible. Like there's just, I keep thinking of how this movie could have just ended and just been like, just really fallen flat, and it doesn't, because it's so, the seeds are so well laid out. And really, I think that a lot of that is due to, it kind of goes back to Joy, and specifically to Stephanie Sue's performance. We find out, one, that she is this big bad very early on in the movie.
Right.
Great choice. Like within 20, 25 minutes, we're like, the Jobu Tapaki is Joy. It is the daughter. So there isn't any kind of guessing of who this big bad is going to be, anything like that. And where this movie kind of inverts the Doctor Strange of everything, where it's like, she's bad, we gotta kill the bad lady, even though we used to like her. This movie is like, no, it takes the actual what a mother would do in this situation, which is like, I need to understand my daughter here. Even if I don't agree with what's happening, I need to try to at least understand what's happening here.
And there's so much happening in this movie to pull the attention away from that journey and from this like central character dynamic. But at the end of the day, I think that they do the impossible, and they figure out a way to make you hone in on the character journey despite all the wacky, insane visual flair that this movie has. Because when this movie is in its climax, and Joy has gotten to the point where she's ready to essentially kill herself, like it's an analog for suicide is what the embrace of the bagel is. She has lived and died 1,000, a million, a billion lifetimes, and she's ready to like fully die. And what you're saying about like how her mother wants to understand her, it's not about essentially solving the problem. It's just about holding on to each other. And it's not really a matter of like trying to solve the problems that this family has, because, you know, you also have Waymond and Evelyn's dad in the picture too. It's like a foursome family dynamic here that we're dealing with. They're not on a path to like really clear out all of the issues and solve everything and wrap everything in a neat.
Grandpa's not about to become like accepting.
Right. It's literally just about like just holding on to each other. And that's literally what they do. They hold on to each other to stop the bagel from sucking all of them in and destroying it all. And it's such a beautiful metaphor for like what a family can be, because it's at the end of the day, it's not really about like liking each other or loving each other unconditionally. It's just about like finding a way to hold on to each other.
It's a support group.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, that's what you should have ideally in a family, is that like, yeah, you aren't like best friends or anything like that, but you know, like if you need each other,
you can count.
You have each other. You have some kind of a support.
You're not alone.
Whether that's actually a biological family or like a group of friends. I don't want to like, I mean, a family is a family, chosen family, all that stuff. But like, that's what this family is trying to grasp onto at its core. Definitely.
Yeah. And it's also, there's also a big element in just Evelyn's arc of learning to accept the idea that she is quote unquote unexceptional. Like
Yes.
she's not good at
this
anything.
version of Evelyn. Yeah.
Yeah, she's the only one that's not good at anything.
Yeah. Well, she doesn't have Rakakuni, so
Yeah, exactly.
So can we talk about the visual flares and the side bars of everything?
there's so many.
So the first
There's
thing I want to
so
talk about,
much.
I think it might be my like single favorite like 45-second sequence of this entire movie is the first time that we see Jobu Tupaki Joy walk through the elevator shaft that like comes through this hallway and is just like every step she takes, she's transforming into like a different version of herself.
And as she attacks
she's like,
all the people,
yeah, she like
they all
gets hit by a
transform.
baton. She grabs it and just turns it into a dildo and then kills people with the dildo.
Incredible.
And then she gets shot and she's like, "Oh no, I'm going. Oh, don't worry, it's organic." And then just licks it and it's ketchup. It's like fucking the most insane balls to the wall shit that you've ever seen in your life. I was like, I've never seen anything. Everything's popping up. He is like, she touches somebody, they just turn to glitter.
It's
incredible.
It's insane.
It's just
fucking insane.
It's insane because these are ideas that you would pitch to your friend, you know, like just like goofing off, and then you'd be like, yeah, that'd be crazy. Anyway, what should it actually be?
They fucking did it.
They're also ideas that like in a vacuum should be, in my opinion, these all sound way cornier than they are in execution. Like
Right.
if you were to just explain the scenes to me, I'd be like, okay, that's like pretty cheese ball. And there is an amount of cheese ball in this movie, but it's like really not. Like a lot of that's because the craft is so out of this world. Like everything is so impeccably shot and executed that there's just like no fucking space for it. And then I think the other reason it works so well is because they're doing so much of it. Like the central conceit, the device that drives this movie is that you have to do something weird to tap into another multiverses version of yourself.
You have to do something that is like statistically highly improbable.
Yeah, exactly.
So-
and some of the things that people do in this are like things that like I fully recognize from like Reddit in 2011 because that's what these guys are.
Eating chapstick.
Yeah, well, no, no, just
By
like
the time you see a man jump on top of like a trophy that it looks
yeah.
like an anal plug, you're like, yeah, no, that makes sense. Cool, yeah, for sure.
but it's like leading up to it, I was
Chekhov's butt plug.
honestly, yeah. They introduce it, you know, you're like, that can't just be sitting there. There's no way that's
it
just
looks
sitting there.
like that.
But yeah, like it, you know, it's ideas that like alone don't work as well. Like the paper cut thing, I've read that exact idea on fucking Reddit before, like because I was on it in high school. You know,
Somebody was talking about verse jumping with paper cuts.
No, someone just talking about like, oh, I would rather fucking do paper cuts in between each of my, you know, just shit like that, where it's like it's like one step away from being like the craziest thing you could do is step on that Lego. That said,
I double dog dare you.
well, but the thing is, they're doing it so much, and it's so important, like so important to
Yeah.
the movie that it doesn't matter.
Right. It's like alternate, or what do they call alpha Wayman. So it's like the original universe that figure out how to verse jump through their alternate selves. The stake of the entire multiverse is in the balance here. Like that's how big this is.
And it's in her daughter's hands.
Yeah. And that's kind of like another magic trick that this movie pulls is that it gives you the smallest thing, which is this family that's like struggling to pay the taxes for their laundromat, and the biggest thing, which is the fate of their entire reality and all of the realities around it.
It's really crazy how well they allocate time considering all the places they could go. Like, because this could be like a 6-season show. You know what I mean? Like this idea could be stretched way too thin.
But
So-
they find the time to go
I
to
know.
all these
Here's the
other
thing
places.
is, thank God this isn't a television show. Like, this is a movie that I'm like, man, I'm so glad that this is a movie that I saw this and in 2 hours and 20 minutes, they got in, they got out, they
Right.
told the perfect story at the perfect length and we're
Did
good.
exactly what they wanted to do.
I think the best illustration of that is I think they spend the perfect amount of time in the Alpha universe, like in that van.
Yeah.
Because it's like the Inception thing of everything's going in slow-mo essentially, and they're like traveling around hooked in, you know, wired into the
Right,
Matrix. And we get it. We see the crew. We get the vibes of the crew. We get that there is a movie in this little world and we're not going to see it. And that's fine. Like that is really, really
the Ready Player One world, as I call it.
It's like
it is it's pretty much just Ready Player One. There's in a little virtual rig there moving around the
yet
back
again,
of the
like
van.
every movie is just swimming in the wake of your favorite movie of the last decade.
Man, could you imagine if they went to Mank World and Ready Player One?
They did. They did. He didn't get credit for that either.
Didn't get credit, man.
They
Jesus.
didn't. Yeah.
So
remember when Mank wrote The Shining, guys? God, it's so cool that I learned about The Shining.
Stephen King Mank, and he's like doing a bunch of cocaine instead of drinking.
So in Doctor Strange, there's a sequence where they crash through the multiverse, and you see them going through all of these alternate realities, and it's like this visually dazzling moment, but it's literally just a moment.
It's a moment, and you're like, "Ooh, God, they were painting one universe."
And then they go to universe where plants grow on buildings.
Universe where it's New York, but what if these skyscrapers had like some shrubbery coming on the sides of it? Dude, that's why I was talking about that. I saw it in the theaters, and I was like, "Are we fucking doing this?"
And
like,
that's where they spend. That's where they spend like a bulk of the second act. But hey, they also have little pizza balls. And it's time to deliver a little pizza ball.
I'm the pizza papa. That's the best part about that movie.
You know what movie I want to see the most out of all the multiverses in this? I want to watch the Rock movie.
Yeah,
well, that's
that's what I was gonna say.
They're just
is that,
sitting on a ledge.
In this movie, you get the universe crashing, but it's way, way better.
It keeps happening over and over.
They fit in like it's a per frame universe, like one universe per frame.
Yeah.
So you're getting like 24 universes per second.
And every now and then, if it fits, like if a moment fits a certain universe like correctly, they'll give you like 10 seconds to a minute in that universe.
Exactly.
Like the Rock universe.
Mm-hmm. The Rock universe.
We get a very touching minute in the Rock universe.
Yeah, just two rocks is like one of the most emotionally affecting points in the movie.
It reminded me of like Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared. It was just it was so minimalistically artistic.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Text on screen. And, you know, I could see some like Reddit guys being like, this is on r/ like nihilism, r/ like galaxy brain. I don't know. What are some like epic Reddit
what are your
threads?
subreddits? I don't think that
there's some guys that are gonna watch this movie and they're gonna be like, wow, this is like very like, you know, like existentialism 101.
Oh no, there's definitely gonna be like
but
people
a lot
like
of
full incel.
But a lot of
just
people are gonna see that scene with the text on the beautiful like Grand Canyon looking thing and be really like, you know, kind of their mind open to a new way of thinking.
The reason I don't have any time for that argument with this is, there's been optimistic nihilism before. There's I forget the name of it, but that famous like Norwegian weird YouTube channel has an entire like video about optimistic nihilism that's been watched by millions and tens of millions of people.
Oh, the animated
it's
guy.
like
Kierkegaard,
or whatever.
No, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, like this has been around. It's sort of it pops up in Rick and Morty
Kurzgesagt.
plenty of times. This idea, the very famous Morty line, like the no one exists on purpose, blah blah blah. I want to watch TV. That's what this movie is.
Exactly.
Like it's the exact same thing. That said, how many movies end with love your family? Like they all do. How many movies end with like America's good? A lot of Michael Bay movies.
Even Rick and Morty is like, go watch TV, but then there's also the whole thing with Rick and Morty that's just like, yeah, but still nothing matters. So I can just like get shit faced all the time and just like go like fuck around in other universes and come back.
That's
over
why
here.
that line is the most famous line from that show, because it's when that show was at its best.
Yeah.
Like,
well, this movie is to me a direct rebuke of that idea. Because that's what the Joy character is at. Like that's where she's at. She is an eternal multiversal being that exists everything everywhere all at once. She sees every outcome of every reality that could possibly happen. And she is a living embodiment of nihilism. And that's why she creates the bagel, because to her, the bagel is a visualization of that. It's all there on a bagel. She put everything on a bagel. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And I relate to that so much, to that idea of like the despair, the overwhelming sense of despair of a crumbling world.
And also just the way that internet makes you feel when like
how it wears you down.
Yeah, and just like the ability to, we're getting closer and closer to just like fully experiencing the lives of others by being online, like through, whether it be through Twitch or YouTube or TikTok. Like you're just, at a certain point, you're just living other lives.
Yeah.
And so you cannot help but think like, what if things, if things had played out ever so slightly differently for me, I would be David Dobrik.
Yeah. I would have hot dog
just
fingers.
things like that. And that, the more lives you experience via the internet, like I've been like addicted to the internet, and specifically like doing that, like exploring like the world through it since I was probably 14. That's horrible for your fucking brain.
Imagine how kids younger than
exactly.
us,
Yeah,
because
I mean, we're the
you,
last generation to grow up at some point in our life without internet.
the more that you do that, the more you do like just inherently have to realize how much your life doesn't matter. And the more that you're probably likely to realize that your life is actually one of, you know, the less significant permutations of a life, all things considered. Like you know what I mean? It's so easy to fall into that line of thought. One thing that I'm upset with the Daniels about is that you cannot say that it's almost appropriation of them to say that it's okay to be unexceptional when they're exceptional.
Well, it is kind of
That's not fair.
yeah, that they are.
That is not fair.
Like
they're
the most
so
exceptional
fucking,
people.
they're so
working in
goddamn
Hollywood.
cool, and they're like, actually, it's chill that you suck shit, old lady, and your life.
It's
blows.
cool that like you were.
By the way, I
literally
just directed the coolest
worst-
movie ever.
You are the worst
And I'm, like,
possible
30.
version of yourself.
Yeah.
Like everything you failed in every decision you've ever made has made you
It's
worse.
just like, you know what? I want a loser to tell me that it's okay to be a loser, not winners.
But the whole point of that is that like that's why she's the Evelyn that is more open to being the most powerful version
Because
of
she is
Yeah,
Evelyn.
of course.
Something-
You have to. It's like, I
Which-
mean, like Neo. Neo's a boring fuck. He's
Yeah.
nothing.
So I do actually like one choice in the movie that's really cool. It's cool how it's visualized too, which is that like Evelyn is still always in her main universe. And she's also in all of these other universes. Like
Yeah.
the fact that she can just be like, as I think Wayman says, like pulled in by the temptation, where she just like goes to Kung Fu universe and is just like, yeah, I just kind of like hang out here for a bit. Like this is like kind of chill.
She,
like,
she
I don't know,
loves
this is-
Celebrity
Pinky-
Evelyn universe.
Yeah.
She's obsessed with that.
Pinky push-up universe.
Yeah, like just like I just want to like hang
God,
out. In
how
this
do you
universe
how
for
do
a
you
bit.
not end up just living in hot dog finger universe?
Dude,
that is
when
the
you see-
vibiest fucking.
You
very
see-
very her vibes.
And you see
there.
them dancing with. Also, okay, so one of the best. It's pretty early on too when they go to Hot Dog Universe. It's like one of the first things that you see, and the cutaway to the 2001 8
Incredible.
scene with the hot
I
dog
fucking
finger
screamed.
Abe killing the. It's so good. It's so genius. And then it flashes to the dancing sequence that you see on the screen earlier. And you're like already
They
like, this
start
is weird that you see them
squirting
they're
mustard.
squirting mustard and ketchup in each other's mouths. It's so like I kind of love this movie's like it's not afraid to just be like immature, like raunchy humor.
love
Yeah,
like
that's
I
the-
love that. Like, and there's some people I know, like friends of the pod, who like saw this and they're just like, I don't know, like just like was a little bit too immature for me.
Get
Are you
hit-
and
calling
like
Colin?
yeah,
Get his
yeah,
fucking
I'm
ass.
adding you, Colin. Yeah, look me in the fucking eyes right now, okay? Have some fun, lighten up. Not everything is David Lynch.
It's yeah, it's a silly movie. Like I'm happy when I see it's the same feeling I get when I watch a Lord and Miller. It's like
Yeah.
there is hope for people who just want to like have a little fun.
Right.
And also their idea of fun is actually funny versus like, you know, like Todd Phillips wants to have a little fun by like making movies with his dumb friends who suck. Like, you know what I mean? This is like some dudes with imaginations and they get to do what they want.
Yeah.
And that makes me happy.
So just to go back to Joy real quick, the point that I was trying to make is that even though I think the things that character thinks all the time about how like we should embrace nihilism because nothing matters, the world is ending, like why should we care about anything? Deep down, I want to believe that I'm not that.
Deep down, you do know that you are getting fat also.
Deep down, I am Waymond. I want to be Waymond.
Well, okay, if we're going back to like April 2020, Ernie, you were closer to Joy than you were to Waymond.
I know,
but
that's
now
what
you're
I'm
at a
saying.
better spot. You've worked more towards the Waymond scale.
That's what I'm saying, is that like, even though like I still have those thoughts, and like the news and just the state of the world reinforce those thoughts, like I want to look inside of myself and feel like Waymond, because what he does in this movie is what I want to do every day in my life, which is lead with kindness.
Oh, I agree.
And
empathy. The thing is, I do that in like speaking astrologically, I'm like,
pull up your co-star.
I'm a Joy sun, a Waymond rising. Waymond is what people know of me, but when I'm Joy, that's the real me.
Right. But you kind of need both, right? Because you can't be oblivious to it all.
Yeah, because Waymond is like a pained man.
Yeah.
Like in that universe, he is like his ability to absorb all negativity.
He is asking for a divorce,
he
and
wants-
like literally just like
he wants. He's miserable.
Everyone was so unobservant of this fucking beta male over here that like he just didn't even know. His wife was just carrying around the divorce papers, and she didn't even notice.
Yeah.
Like you don't want to go full Waymond on this, but. Yeah, no, it's funny. Like this movie kind of feels like it's coming out at the perfect time, but I have bad news for everybody. Life probably isn't going to get a whole lot better anytime soon.
Right.
So I think that's actually going to help this movie like age really nicely, is because kind of the news is always bad.
It would be really funny if like at the end, Evelyn's like, we can do whatever we want, and then like a tidal wave just obliterates America.
Yeah, it's like it zooms out and it's like they're in like Ukraine. It's like that scene.
Shit.
It's like that Robert Pattinson movie where it's 9/11 at the end.
Holy shit.
Anyway,
like Russian troops are advancing on the IRS building.
Just another crazy day in Kyiv.
God, wouldn't it be crazy if this nuclear facility
You're like,
went
wow,
off?
the casting is so diverse in this. It's like Hamilton. Like they were Ukrainian the whole time.
Oh my god! So Raccacoonie.
Going back to yeah. Let's talk Raccacoonie.
Yeah, tight 20 minutes, really quick.
Man. So Drew, like, did you ascend at that point? Because I ascended for you, and then I've just been sitting on this information.
Hunter, I was losing my because
they set it up earlier.
I know they set it up. They had also already.
You think it's just a throwaway joke?
They'd also already played the song "Absolutely" by 9 Days like 6 times. Like there's in the background of a lot of scenes, there's a really quiet, different version of it in different multiverses. I was losing my fucking mind, guys. Good. And then they hit me with the Raccacoonie, and I was over the moon. It just like it felt like fate that I was watching it.
On rewatch, the first time you're in the Chef universe, you can actually see the raccoon tail.
I believe it
under the guy's hat.
Yeah, because he's got a big old fucking hat.
Yeah,
like, it's bigger than your normal like your hibachi hat.
But like the thing I love about this movie is that like it keeps going with the bit.
Yeah, it's not just, these aren't throwaway jokes.
No.
Every throwaway joke you make is another like tangent off into the multiverse. Which is the thing that none of these movies describe. Like
it also it's very impressive because that makes it so that even though we are seeing so many possibilities and so many different versions of their lives, we are still limiting it a lot because we're seeing them over and over.
Yeah.
Like, how many are we getting like multiple times? Not a ton, actually. They're really that would give me analysis paralysis if I were these two guys, where it's like, okay, we're opening the door to anything at all, but we need to keep it to like a tight dozen.
To tell a story.
We have to have a tight dozen that are actually recurring. So, and one of them has to be Raccacoonie. Like, you know what I mean? They really committed to some stupid shit. Like, they really like doubled down. They were like, no, we're doing Raccacoonie like 6 times.
Yeah.
No, we're gonna
That's
keep
fucking
going
cool,
back
man.
there. Where then Evelyn is going to carry this man on her shoulder.
She's carrying Harry Shum.
And and Raccacoonie is going to be like being whisked away to animal control.
I love it. Raccacoonie also talks, and he talks like he smokes a pack a day of Marlboro Reds. He's like,
So
it's Randy Newman.
Fucking Randy Newman.
that was what really impressed me the most about this type of multiverse is they committed to really dumb shit.
Yeah.
Like, and I appreciate that a lot because
we need more of that.
They didn't have a ton of time in this movie, all things considered, and they were willing to do that. They were willing to give 5 minutes to Raccacoonie. Even though Ratatouille came out in 2007, just like absolutely Story of a Girl came out in like 2001 maybe, and like it's a one-hit wonder band. No one has thought about that song since then. They are willing to put in things that make them laugh.
Right.
Like that's another thing I like, especially in like young filmmakers. Lord and Miller do this too. There are jokes in their shit where I know that it's not for an audience because any note from a studio would be like, "Hey, what are you talking about here?" Like
it's like just something that they find funny, and something that they found funny on like their like 250th edit of this movie.
Exactly.
Like
it's like 3 a.m. and they're like, you know, like laying on the couch. Like, okay, what if it's fucking like a raccoon Ratatouille?
Well, it'd be one thing if it was just like one wacky sequence.
No, yeah.
It's the entire fucking movie.
Yeah.
Literally wall to wall.
Because it just gets funnier.
Right.
Because you're like, okay, they're bringing it back. Like, it was already so dumb.
Yeah. Like, no. Not only does she have hot dog fingers, but like in that universe, they're really good with their feet. So she's going to wipe away tears with her big toe.
Yeah. And then you're going to see them dramatically playing piano with their feet.
And it is very much like her, that universe. It's such a soft, like sweet.
Well, that's another thing. So the way that each of these universes are shot are very stylistically different from each other.
The Sigma Waymond universe is so genre.
Dude, I love the aesthetic of that universe. Like that's I just want to see them make an entire movie that looks like that. The Kung Fu universe.
No. Wong Kar-wai.
Yeah. It's very, very Wong Kar-wai. Also, that is the universe. I mean, I cried a few different points in this movie, but that universe is the one that like really got me the most.
Line.
Just the line of like, you know, I would like to, sometimes I think in some universes, I would like to just have a timeline where we're just together and
doing taxes and laundry. Exactly.
Just,
yeah, there's a
as
moment,
somebody who just has a significant other and lives a mundane life with them most of the time, just that
Hunter, you have the most special life I've ever seen.
Thank you.
There's a moment in the movie, I think it is that moment, where it's all like kind of building up to this monologue that Ke Huy Quan gives, and it's cutting through all of the different universes, and it really lands that idea of like fighting with empathy, and it sets up the empathy fight where she basically gives each person stopping her what they want. She doesn't fight them. She just gives them what they want.
Which again is like yet again, probably it's like the 20th or 30th example of really, really creative filmmaking that also is really important to the story.
Yeah.
That they do that so many times in this. Like that fight sequence, it represents a huge shift in the character, and it's also just fun to watch.
Right.
Like they marry it, and that's the only way this movie can work because it's throwing so much shit at you. It has to multitask all the time. Like at any given moment, like 3 or 4 different important things are happening. It's really, really remarkable to me.
It's chaos, and yet it all is connected towards one single point.
Yeah, exactly. Like you get to the point where you see someone, like you said, you see someone like jumping on a giant butt plug trophy, and you're just like, yeah, this
cool. Yeah, this
logically,
is that world.
like, yeah, absolutely. He is.
And the way they organize everything and the way they're able to kind of deliver the information, it all is in tandem with the momentum of the story. Like towards the beginning, one of the first times Evelyn has to verse jump is she has to tell Jamie Lee Curtis that she loves her. And the moment where she actually does, it's like this beautiful, incredible moment. And we don't know that is actually going to link to the Hot Dog Fingers universe where they actually are in love.
Yeah.
And then that comes back around.
God, but they're going through some stuff in that universe.
I know.
Like
Yeah.
they're
I really hope that they make it.
I want to see it so much. I want to see the
Just wanna
movie.
see them just stick their little hot dog fingers into each other's mouths.
Jamie Lee Curtis is so good in this movie.
Yeah.
This is like the
transforms.
best thing that Jamie Lee Curtis has done, and God, I don't even know how long.
Since
Freaky Friday?
Yeah, I was just about to say.
I was gonna say because people are gonna say the
Since
2018
Activia
Halloween,
commercials?
2018 Halloween, she is really good in that movie, but that's almost like gets a pass because it's like, well, cool, you're just doing Laurie Strode again. Like as far as like an original character goes, like she's so fucking good.
And
in this
and
movie.
she's and that also plays into her. It's incredible how hard she's writing for this shit.
Yeah.
She gets it. She
She's
knows.
queen.
She knows that this was a big get for her, even though like people are like, wow, what a big get for this movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's symbiotic. Like it matters to this movie that Jamie Lee Curtis is in an important role in a movie full of people that your average person doesn't know.
So speaking to that, Stephanie Sue, she's gonna be like a movie star, right? Like that was my takeaway of like Ke Huy Quan, like I really hope that he's gonna have like a revitalized career. Michelle Yeoh is definitely going
Quan
to
is
like,
trying to
more
get
roles.
Indiana Jones. He's trying to be Indiana Jones.
Oh, that would be fucking rad.
rules. That rocks
Let's
so
go.
much.
The Return of Short
I
But
Round.
want a
Stephanie-
sweet, nice little Indiana Jones who's like returning everything.
I would love that. It'd be so nice.
Yeah.
He's just like, here
Fuck
you go.
colonialism.
Yeah, he's an anti-colonialist.
pyramid.
Stephanie Sue though is like I'd never seen her before. I know she's in Maisel.
She's great in that.
And I can't really remember her character. What season did she come in?
3.
Maisel? I don't know if I even saw season 3. But like after seeing this and the range that she has just in this one performance, like I want to see her in everything now. Like I just want this person.
She has
movies.
she has a dynamic face and a dynamic voice. She can do a lot with both. Like I see her. She's someone who could nail a lot of different auditions. Like you said, it's easy to say that about anyone in this movie because we see them do different auditions basically. But she's very elastic for like a young performer. I can see her doing a lot.
I want her to have to be able to have range. I don't want her to just be like stuck in. I mean, hopefully I'm saying this like with my fingers crossed that there's more opportunity for Asian American roles that are outside of just being an Asian American or an Asian person in a movie. Saying that with fingers crossed that hopefully she can get something outside of just being like the roles that Awkwafina has kind of been pigeonholed in.
Everyone is incredible in this movie. It's perfectly cast. It's perfectly calibrated. I just no notes. Like it's again, like we said at the beginning, it's like instant 5-star movie. I can't wait to watch it over and over again because I know it's going to be one of those movies where the more I watch it, the more stuff I'll pick up on. Like the second time around, I picked up on the fact that like the bagel and the Google, the little googly eyes are inverses of each other. Just like, oh my God, these guys are fucking
so cool.
geniuses.
Another thought, I think we talked about this right after the movie, Hunter, is that we're really lucky this didn't come out when we were like 18 because we would have been so fucking annoying.
Yeah, could you imagine?
We were already
when
so
you
annoying about
guys
Rick
saw-
and Morty.
Yeah.
No, yeah, Rick and Morty, but like whenever you guys were 14 and you saw Inception,
Oh, yeah.
and showed up
we were
over
such a
at
fucking pain in the
at
ass.
David's house, and I'm just sitting there, just like after eating, like hungover from Chinese.
Yeah,
food
you guys
the
are like,
night
yeah, we had a
before.
lot of Chinese food. Me and Ernie are like, we're dreaming.
Everything is a dream.
You're not
man.
alive, man. We're like slapping you.
Wake up. Wake up.
If you guys would have seen this, I would have just never actually watched.
We
this
went
movie.
and
I've been
saw
like,
that
"You're
with two
unbearable."
girls, and like, no, we saw Toy Story with them, and then we stayed for.
left,
If we'd
yeah.
seen that with them, we would like they would have not liked it.
Christopher Nolan? Fuck out of here.
Yeah, no, but it is on the other side, like, I kind of wish that this was a cable movie in like the same way that you can just like flip on. I have YouTube TV right now, which, man, having cable is just so nice. And just like, you're just like scrolling the channels and you're like, oh shit, Heat's on? Yeah, I'll just like watch an hour of Heat. Like, I wish that you could do that with everything everywhere if
Right.
that was just on like AMC.
There should be an A24 channel.
Let's do it.
Channel 24.
Maybe with my A24 membership, it'll include an A24
A24 channel on Pluto.
It's just like, oh, damn,
Yeah.
they're playing Lamb again?
yeah.
Fuck.
Should I watch Moonlight or Baggage right now on Pluto?
Oh man.
Not enough. Were you upset by like the lack of Biff Whiff? Like we see him in the very beginning of the movie, and he does kind of go away a little bit. Unfortunately,
it is a sort of a cosmic gumbo. Guys.
Do you think that like he was like, sorry, Daniels, I can only shoot these scenes because then I do have to go to be part of this like Netflix show.
This
like
man
he had
is-
to jump back and forth between like what
This man
set he
is
was
in like
on.
the two greatest things that have come out in the last several years.
These are my two favorite things.
Like no, he's literally doing better than anyone I could name right now. It's crazy.
Yeah. I love the movie. There's still so many, like we could be here forever just digging into like all the different universes, like the different through lines, the different moments where everything lines up so perfectly as you're traveling through this insane story. I think it's just the kind of movie that it should be experienced by as many people as possible.
Yeah, and the issue is, like I said, it's genuinely a threshold of like your experience with media as to whether or not like you're going to be able to process it. And it's not a diss to say that you can't, but it's just going to be too much of a shock to the senses for people who aren't on the internet all the time.
Right.
And that's like by design, like you said, like it's a lot of there's anime in here, there's video games in here. Your average Oscar voter would watch it and say, "Oh yeah, this is like a video game. It's too much for me."
Well, it's also internet video, like internet video, you know, kind of YouTube style content.
Yeah, imagine
music video.
Oscar voters can't handle like fucking, I don't know, like Get Out. You know what I mean? Like they can't handle much simpler shit.
Right.
Yeah, no,
the clip at what this is firing.
Yeah,
at
like
is
no
like,
way in hell.
We need
it
to
would
like
kill like a 90-year-old Oscar
we need
voter.
to make a new award show just so that things like well, you know what? This will probably be big at the Spirit Awards, right?
Oh yeah.
This movie might like clean the fuck up at the Spirit
Yeah.
Awards this year. I don't know what the threshold is for like
Was this
what makes
drafted in our
something
draft?
eligible.
No, we made a call not to draft anything
'Cause-
that was released.
Oh, it was already
before.
out. Okay,
Yeah.
I didn't.
Yeah.
know.
Before we wrap up, I really want to shout out Sun Lux.
Dude,
does the music
the
for
score
this
is
movie.
so
This is
fucking
the other.
incredible.
This was the other reason I said it felt really weird that I watched it that day. Like 2 hours before that, I had just put on Son Lux just because I was in the mood to listen to Lost It to Trying, which is one of my like 10, 15 favorite songs ever. Listen to Son Lux if you haven't. It's beyond like knocking it out of the park. Like this was one of the better. Like this is like getting introduced to One Otrix Point Never in those movies where you're like, this isn't like a 60-year-old who's just has like 30 years of movie experience. Like how can you already be this good?
Right.
It doesn't make sense.
It's so also Sonlux collaborated with Mitski, David Byrne, and Andre 3000 on the score.
Yeah.
So
The track, the closing track.
yeah.
This Is a Life.
Yeah.
Perfect song.
Son Lux is the shit.
Just
Yeah, their music is
Son
very
Lux
cinematic,
rules.
so it makes sense.
I just remembered another thing I had to mention. The Sign Spinner universe, Hunter. Did this speak to your
Dude, it
your
triggered
one-day sign
my
spinning,
one day as sign
driving
spinning
like an hour to sign spin for a day and then quitting.
Sign spinning outside of the Daytona Speedway. And I learned like 3 tricks and then they underpaid me and I said, fuck you, I'm not going back.
There's a universe
You know-
where you went back, Hunter.
I think I kept the sign. I can't
good.
remember. And I'm pretty sure I just threw it away at one point. But I was like, no, you didn't pay me all my money. I'm keeping your
Did you ever
sign."
try to do like an epic action scene like what Michelle Yeoh does in this movie?
It has happened a couple of times. I've been to bars, and like I'm just like about to start a bar fight, and so I like rip off a poster off the wall and just start spinning it around. I'll slice their throats with it.
Exactly. That was one of the best scenes in the movie. That sign spinner fight. I fucking love that. And
so
a lot
cool.
of that is Michelle Yeoh doing. I think it is all her doing it in camera.
That's another thing
She's a master
underrated
of
is
that
that
shit.
Michelle Yeoh is actually done like a lot of action.
Yeah.
Acting like
She's
she
very-
actually
yeah,
can
she's
do kung fu. She
crazy
was in
talented.
fucking Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Like she did so much of that shit.
Queen.
The best.
I hope she gets some kind of recognition for this movie because I think she's incredible.
Hey.
And I hope Ke Huy Quan gets recognition too. I mean, I would love to see any type of love for them. And the love story in this movie too. I know that like we focus a lot on like the mother-daughter relationship, but this is in a lot of ways a love story between the two of them and these like kind of star-crossed lovers that in so many different realities find each other. There's so much there. The moment where like you see the flashback to her childhood, that's another crazy moment where you see her whole life go by her eyes, and you see this idea of like the life that they didn't live together and the life that they did live together.
But one thing I do love about that is like it's something that Guy and I have talked about before. I've talked about it with like a lot of people about how like there's just like people in your life that are just like important figures in your life. And if there is like a multiverse, like in every lifetime you have interactions with this person, and like it might not necessarily go one way or another exactly the same and everything, but like this person is in like every version of your life.
Hunter,
and that's is like basically what it's saying between Evelyn and Wayman. That's how I think in every version we start a podcast together is what's crazy. There's a version where we are the Bill Simmons. We just create podcasts. We're like 10 years old and just
we're skipping Stephen A. We're just screaming at each other on ESPN.
Scoop.
By the way,
unfortunately, you're Shannon Sharp, and that's just fucked up, Hunter.
By the way, I love the whole notion of like Wayman like transforming into this different version of himself in front of his wife that he's like about to divorce. That really like kind of hit a good chord with me, where it's like he just kind of in camera he transitions. He puts his hand in front of his face and he just switches to a different version. And to me that spoke of like a romantic gesture of like, oh, we're on an adventure, baby. We are together. We're in love. Things aren't working out, but
she wanted to see Epic Wayman so bad.
Yeah.
Like, especially early on. She's like, no, don't give me my fucking husband. Give me this guy who understands what the fuck is happening.
This fucking cock.
The movie, man, this is the type of movie I would really, really want to see a behind the scenes doc.
Oh, I can't wait. Ooh.
Yeah, man, I hope that they do. I think the A24, I mean,
come on.
They're already giving it the full treatment. They released a book like that was edited by Daniels. Oh, you ordered it?
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm gonna order it before it sells out. But they released like a book about the multiverse that's like edited a bunch of different stories and theories about the multiverse, that each of like the pages are edited in different styles and everything, which is really cool. They have like googly eyes and hot dog finger hands. And
should we get some of those? I feel like we should like load up on.
I have bad news, which is that the hot dog finger hands are sold out. Hopefully they come back in stock, because I was like, that's just the easiest costume idea for Halloween this year. Is that I'm just gonna be walking around like grabbing beers with my toes.
All right, I think we can wrap it up there.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Please rate, review, subscribe, like, and comment in every universe. Let us know your thoughts on everything, everywhere, all at once. Recommend it. Tell people about this movie.
Yes.
It's fucking awesome. Everyone should see it. It's a special one.
We didn't even mention this movie made history. That's the first movie ever that, after being out for a month plus, had a 0% drop off in the box office.
Yeah, no, it went up.
It raised it. No,
it was like a 2%.
It gained money after being out for a month.
It's without any awards buzz.
Right.
Yeah,
no, that's usually what does
it.
It's
literally, it's just word of mouth, because this movie is that special. Like,
yeah, it's the type of movie where like if it hits you right, which it is likely to, you are going to be annoying and tell everyone. Like,
please visit our website, webottomike.net and anchor.fm/webottomike if you want to donate. Thank you, beautiful donors, for supporting the show. Stick around for The Northman, for Men, for Top Gun Maverick. We're in the summer movie season, boys. We'll get back to Robin eventually. We promise. We promise. There's good movies coming out right now.
Flubber.
We love you. Bye-bye.
Bye.